Namaskar. So that Adam Alter talk came at the right time because in Antarctica, my white space didn't have a single sliver of red. There was no screen time at all. And I have a request to the entire audience. My presentation includes a lot of photos. The more oohs and ahs I get, I'll be more excited. So let's begin. Terra Incognita, the hidden or unknown land, as the ancient geographers used to call it. So the ancient geographers assumed that if there is a land in the north, the Arctic, there must be a land in the south. So they called it anti-Arctic, which is why it was called Antarctica, or it is called Antarctica. So I welcome you all to my journey through Terra Incognita, Antarctica. The Indian Antarctic program was launched in 1981 by the government and the National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research. Our first base, Dakshin Gangotri, was built in 1983 after India signed the Antarctic Treaty. Then our first permanent research station on mainland, which is Maitri, which you can see here, was built in 1989. And then our second permanent base, Bharati Station, came in 2012. We follow all the goals and ideals of the Antarctic Treaty, which was originally signed in 1959, to keep Antarctica as a non-weaponized, non-political, and virgin territory for international cooperation in scientific activities. This is the permanent research base. This is a permanent building which houses the winter over expeditioners, usually numbering 23 to 25, who stay throughout the year. This is the summer camp, which accommodates 70 to 80 members, usually during the months of summer. The wooden huts, which you can see, house the lab equipment and the labs. They have been on site even before Maitri was built because they served as the living space during construction of Maitri between 1985 and 1989. The pristine landscape that you see in the image has been shot from the window of my own room. So this was my view after I would wake up. My friends usually tell me, "Bhai, tu वापस क्यों आया?" And believe me, I ask myself the same question every day. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and my specialization is emergency medicine. I was on the expedition as the medical officer. We were two doctors, Dr. Vijesh Vijayan and I, and our primary role was taking care of the health of all the members of the station. We also had a role to play in the station maintenance and in the kitchen. And during field days, one of us used to go on the field trips, and the other member used to stay back at the station. We reached Antarctica in December, which is peak summer in the southern hemisphere. We went from Cape Town using a Russian military aircraft, which you see in the image. It is an Ilyushin IL-76. So it seats us along the walls, while the cargo occupies most of the space. So it is not a 5-star flight. You have to sit very uncomfortably for 5.5 hours. And these flights are scheduled only between November to February, which are the summer months. Rest of the year, you do not have any flights. The other way to reach Antarctica is by ship. All our fuel, most of our equipment, maintenance as well as labs, and most of our food stock comes to us via ship. This image is the perfect representation of an ideal world. It is a Russian ship manned by a Russian crew, having 2 helicopters, which are manned by crew from South Africa and Ukraine. And it is chartered by India. So everyone working in brotherhood, or as we Bharatiyas call it, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is one family. Thank you. So we camp around 25 kilometers away from where the ship is anchored. And we have 2 living modules and a generator, which we set up. The living module has bunk beds, which can house around 20 members, and a small kitchen, which we use to cook food. Food usually involves ready-to-eat packets of food. And water supply is basically the snow which we collect from outside. We collect the snow every 6 hours. We melt it in an electric heater, and that's our water. This time when we stayed, we were stuck in a blizzard at the campsite for over a week with wind speeds crossing 120 kilometers per hour. So after we were out of the blizzard, then we could go to our ship, unload all our containers, decant all our fuel, and then head to Maitri station, back to Maitri. We were at the campsite for 3 weeks, and on clear nights, our entire campsite used to glow under the green lights of the Aurora Australis. This image, again, has been shot from my window of the living module. When people talk about the poles, the Antarctica or about Antarctica or the Arctic, people immediately think about 6 months of polar day and 6 months of polar night. The location where we were staying was 71 degrees south. So we experienced around 2.5 months of polar day and 2.5 months of polar night. This image was the last sunset in May. And we especially clicked this image because after this, we were not going to see the sun again for the next 2.5 months. It was a little cathartic to say the least because when you're staying away from family at the edge of the earth, 10,000 kilometers away from the mainland, with minimal communication via satellite phone and rudimentary internet for emails, the sun is your only companion on the larger scale of things. And it is your only source of dopamine. It is said that whoever can spend the winter in Antarctica is one of the rarest of the rare people, considering the harsh climate, the blizzards, the darkness, and the lack of contact with anyone apart from the people you are staying with. So, on the 21st of June, which is Midwinter Day, we all receive the title of Polar Man. And I am honored and privileged to tell you that in the history of our glorious nation, less than 1,200 Indians have been bestowed with the title of Polar Man. Along with the title, we receive a certificate which is signed by our expedition leader and the leader of the Russian expedition at Novolazarevskaya station, which is 4 kilometers east of Maitri. Both our stations share a very good camaraderie with help available from both sides. And when you're living in the middle of nowhere, in the wilderness, whoever you meet is closer to you than your real family. It is a custom at the Maitri station where every member who lives at the station gets to celebrate their birthdays. I was blessed to celebrate mine in July in the middle of the wilderness on the frozen lake. I was famous at the station for venturing out the most, regardless of the weather, be it day or night. And my expedition leader was like, Doctor Saab ka to birthday bahar hi manayenge. So I was blessed to have all my members come out with me and cut my cake at temperatures of minus 50 degrees Celsius. It was obviously very cold. Calling it very cold is an understatement. And the blueberry cheesecake was harder than rock. But the moment was once in a lifetime, and it has left a mark on me as well as all my station members. The highlight of polar nights is the Aurora Australis. The bright green bands or curtains of light dazzle through the sky regularly. I have had 42 nights of Aurora Australis. People usually from India usually have heard of the Northern Lights. They go to Finland, Iceland, and if they are lucky, they get to see maybe 3 or 4 nights. I was blessed to have 42 nights of the Aurora Australis. And on one night, I even camped under the stars, under the Aurora Australis. My expedition leader, IMD meteorologist, Mr. H.N. Singh, and I set up a tent, took a chair, and decided to enjoy the show out there in the middle of nowhere at temperatures of minus 35 degrees Celsius. We spent the night, and it was freezing cold, but the magnificence of the moment was so mind-blowing that it was difficult to feel anything else apart from being awestruck. And then in July, towards the end of July, when the sun rose up again, the amount of warmth is generated in our souls is something which cannot be described by mere words. You had to be there to feel what I felt in that moment. The day we knew the sun is going to rise up again, we decided to take a walk towards the east, found a good view. The sunrise was across the ice shelf in the north. I climbed a rock, joined my palms in a prayer, and thanked it for filling us all up with life and hope. On one of our excursions during the winter, we came across this ice wall around 5 kilometers west of Maitri station. This is peak winter, mind you. This image has the place where I've shot this image from, this ice wall existed at that place. The significance of that statement is, so as I was saying, this ice wall was where I have shot this image from. So the significance of that statement is the amount of melting that has taken place in less than 10 years. You can even see cracks in the ice wall. And like I said, it's peak winter and the ice wall is already cracking and crumbling. Global warming is real and I have seen it live. Even at night, we could hear ice falling off the ice wall. And as global warming has affected the geography in Antarctica, it has also affected the biology in Antarctica. There's a predatory bird named skua, which usually signals the advent of summer in Antarctica. And over the last couple of decades, the skuas have been coming to Antarctica a few days in advance. 378 days spent in Antarctica have left an indelible mark on my life. The blue waters, the white ice and snow, and those brown rocks have left an irreplaceable space in my mind and in my soul. I clicked this image depicting the yogi in me to remind me every day what Antarctica gave me. Eternal contentment and lasting peace. Before I sign off, a big thank you to my entire team at the 41st Indian Scientific Expedition to Antarctica. And to everybody present here and to the TEDx team in Pune, thank you for having me. Dhanyavad.